There's a question that follows everyone around. Not the fancy kind from philosophy books, the real kind. How do you keep going when everything says stop? When the odds are stacked against you? When the people you love leave? When life keeps hitting you and you're running out of places that don't bruise? How do you move forward? Gurren Lagann is a show about giant robots and galaxy-sized explosions and people screaming so loud they bend reality. It's honestly ridiculous, over the top. It's the most anime that ever animated. But beneath all that noise, it's about something way simpler. It's about a nobody who became a somebody. It's about losing the person you love most and figuring out how to stand on your own. It's about borrowing someone else's strength until you find your own. This is a story of Simone the Digger, a kid who started with nothing, became everything, then walked away like it was nothing. Let's get into it. You can't talk about Simone without talking about Kamina. They're two halves of the same stupid, beautiful coin. Kamina is the loudest person in any room, any cave, any dimension. He never doubts. He never shuts up. He never stops reaching for something he's never seen. But here's the thing. Kamina wasn't very strong. He wasn't all talented either. He lost most of his fights. He was all talk most of the time. But he never stopped talking. He never stopped getting back up. His real power wasn't in strength or skill. It was in stubbornness. Pure, irrational, stubborn conviction. Simone didn't believe in the surface. He didn't believe in the sky. He didn't believe in a world beyond the cave. He instead believed in Kamina, a kid clinging to the only person who ever made him feel like maybe life wasn't just digging until you die. That line, that stupid, brilliant line, believe in the Kamina who believes in you. It's not about believing in yourself. It's about borrowing confidence from someone who has more than you, letting them carry you until you're strong enough to walk on your own. Simone didn't know it then, but Kamina was teaching him something that would define his entire life. Belief can be borrowed. Confidence can be lent. Hope can be held for someone by someone who loves you until you're ready to hold it in yourself. Kamina died saving Simone. Not on a cool, heroic last stand, not even with a speech. He just got hit. The attack wasn't even meant for him. He jumped in front of it because that's what he does. Simone held him, watched him die. The only person who ever believed in him is now gone. For days, Simone was nothing. Not sad, not angry, just empty. The crutch was now gone, and he didn't know how to stand on his own. Everyone expected Simone to step up now, to be the new Kamina, to lead, to shout, to be confident. But Simone wasn't Kamina. He never was. And pretending to be something else isn't healing. It's just another way of hiding. Nia asked him something no one else thought to ask. What do you want? Not what would Kamina want? Not what do you need? Not even when are you going to get over it? What do you want? Simone didn't have an answer. Not yet. But for the first time, he was asking. And asking the question is the first step towards an answer. There's a moment deep in the sad part where Simone looks at his drill and remembers something. Not a big speech, not an epic battle, something small. This is yours now. Don't lose it. It's what makes you, you. The drill was never about fighting, never about power. It was about purpose. Kamina gave it to Simone because he saw something in him that Simone couldn't see. A core, a will, a thing that kept turning even when nothing else did. Simone doesn't have a big moment where he becomes Kamina. He doesn't replace him neither. He doesn't become someone else, he becomes himself. When Simone finally fights again, it's not with Kamina's fire, it's with his own. A quieter fire, a deeper one. He's not just trying to be anyone else, he's just doing what he can, moving forward, drilling one step at a time. That's the moment. That's the whole show. I'm not Kamina, but I'm not nobody either. Simone found himself in the space between someone else and being nothing. He didn't become the hero everyone wanted, he instead became the hero he actually was. But here's something easy to miss about Simone. He never gets confident. Not really. Not like Kamina. He's still Simone, still the digger, still the kid who'd rather be underground than on stage. He's just learned to act anyway. That's the secret of Simone's will. It's not certainty. It's not even confidence. It's not even the absence of fear. It's just commitment. Here's something nobody tells you about becoming the person everyone believes in. It's lonely. For years, Simone was the one who followed, the one who needed someone to believe in him. He had Kamina for that. Kamina carried the weight of belief, so Simone didn't have to. But now, Kamina is gone, and somewhere along the way, without noticing, Simone became the one everyone looks at. There's a psychological shift that happens when you go from being the one who needs saving to the one who saves. It's not liberation, it's pressure. Simone can't fall apart anymore. Not really. Every time he doubts himself, someone notices. Every time he hesitates, someone gets scared. His confidence isn't just his own anymore. It's borrowed by everyone around him. Rossio understands this better than anyone. He was raised in a village where every decision was about survival, where one wrong move meant someone died. He sees Simone's confidence and doesn't understand where it comes from, because Rossio was never needed the luxury of blind faith. He thinks Simone is reckless. He's not wrong. But here's the thing about Simone that Rossio can't calculate. Simone's confidence isn't based on probability. It's not based on strategy. It's not even based on past success. It's based on a decision. Simone decided, somewhere in the grief and the silence and the slow process of becoming himself, that he would not let fear make his choices for himself. That's not bravery. Bravery is not being afraid. Simone is afraid all the time. You can see it in his hands, in the way he grips the controls, in the moment before a battle, when he's just standing there, breathing. What he has is something else, something psychologists call commitment to action. The choice to move forward even when the feeling of certainty isn't there. Viral notices this. He spent his whole life trying to surpass humans, trying to prove that beastmen are just as capable. And he's lost every single time. Not because he's weaker, not because he's less skilled, but because he doesn't have what Simone has. Not the spiral power, the refusal to accept the conclusion before the race is over. Viral fights to win. Simone fights because fighting is what you do. The win is secondary. The win is a side effect. That's the difference between someone who's chasing a result and someone who's committed to a process. The person chasing the result stops when the result seems impossible. The person committed to the process keeps going because stopping isn't an option they've considered. There's a cost to this. Simone doesn't talk about it. That's not his way, but you can see it in the way he carries himself. The slight stoop in his shoulders, the way he smiles, don't reach his eyes anymore. He's not the same kid who followed Kamina out of that cave. He's something harder, something more tired, something that's learned to keep going even when every part of himself wants to stop. Yoko sees it. She's carried her own weight, lost Kamina, watched the person she loved die in front of her. But she also sees that Simone is carrying something she's never had to. He's carrying everyone. There's a concept in existential psychology called responsibility. Not the kind you're assigned, the kind you absorb. The kind that comes from being the one people look at when things get hard. Simone never asked for that responsibility. It was given to him, first by Kamina, who believed in him, whether he wanted it or not. Then by the crew, who needed someone to follow. Then by humanity, who needed a hero and a symbol. And he accepted it, not because he wanted to, but because there was no one else. That's the quiet form of human will. Not the dramatic charge into battle, not the screaming speech about fighting spirit. It's about waking up every day, knowing that everyone is looking at you and deciding to stand up anyway. This is what Simone figured out that Rossio couldn't, that the anti-spiral couldn't, that even Kamina, for all his bravado, never had to face. Will isn't about being sure, It's about acting without being sure. Certainty is a luxury Simone can't afford, but he can afford commitment. He can afford to keep moving. He can afford to drill, even when he can't see what's on the other side. And that's enough. That's always been enough for him. The decision to keep moving, even when you don't know where you're going. The choice to act, even when you're scared. The willingness to drill, even when you can't see what's on the other side. Simone doesn't win because he's the strongest. He wins because he refuses to stop. His will isn't a fire that burns everything in its path. It is instead a drill that keeps turning, even when the rock is hard, even when progress is slow, even when everyone else has given up. That's human will, not the dramatic kind, the kind that shows up every day and does the work. The final fight of Gurren Lagann is ridiculous. Mechs bigger than galaxies, drills that break reality, people screaming so loud they rewrite physics. It shouldn't work, but it does. Because underneath all the spectacle, there's something real. Simone isn't fighting because he wants to destroy, he's fighting because he wants to protect the future, the people he loves, the chance for the next generation to see the sky without having to fight for it. They win. The universe is free. And then Simone does something unexpected. He doesn't take credit, doesn't become a king, doesn't build a statue of himself. He just goes, gives his drill to the next generation, and walks into the world as nobody again. Simone, who wanted nothing. Simone, who became everything. Simone, who chose to be nothing again so others could be something. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing anyone can do. Simone looks at the kid and he smiles. Not a hero smile, just a tired, warm, human smile. He doesn't say he was one of them. He doesn't even take credit. He just passes the story on, the same way Kamina passed it to him. This is the final lesson. Simone's will was never about him. It was about passing the drill on, about making sure the next generation had something to believe in, about being the one who digs the tunnel so someone else can see the sky. Simone started as nothing, became everything, and chose to be nothing again. And that's the greatest representation of human will I'd ever seen.